Welcome back to Not a Strong Start, a podcast by filmmakers who talk movies, television, and wear hats to never do our hair. I'm your host, Fresh Moment.
I'm not your host. Read all about it.
And I'm your other guy, Mario Lopez.
I like that. Okay, so in this episode, it's going to be a whole current events episode. So Jose's lined up some good topics that we're going to discuss, and we'll hear our thoughts on it. Anything else you
All
want to
right.
preface?
Oh, honestly, this is one of the ones is as simple as possible. No explanation needed. So I jotted down a few things that I've been seeing swirling around the news and the rumor mill, and we're gonna discuss. So let's get right into the first one. With the movie Smile 2 came out last month, and is actually coming out on digital pretty soon. So what they're actually doing as a nice little like a game is they're allowing people to go online, I believe to a Paramount site and allowing them to watch the first 7 minutes of Smile.
Hmm.
But there's a caveat to it.
Mm.
When you get to the website, first of all, you got to put your date of birth, and the video does not start until you are smiling. The camera captures your smile.
Oh, that's
And
Oh,
you
cool.
have to smile the whole time in order to watch the 7 minutes. If
Oh
you
my
stop
God.
smiling, it pauses. If you re-smile, it re-engages. So you can only watch while you're smiling. As a little mini
Hmm.
promotion for the digital release of Smile coming out later on. So we'll start with you, George. What are your thoughts on this little I guess marketing strategy and kind of way to promote the movie, even though it's already been out?
that's a very interesting gimmick to utilize. I can see this. This is feeding off like TikTok trends. So I can
Hmm.
see people going on TikTok filming themselves while watching this. How long can they hold a smile for 7 minutes? Can Jose stay smiling for the rest of the
No,
45 minutes that we're here?
no. That's his third grade smile. I know he can only hold it for like 20 seconds.
So it's interesting. I mean, heck, I might go on there and check it out. I didn't see it in theaters, so
Hmm.
maybe this might inspire me now to want to go see it. I still haven't seen part one yet, so I don't know. This
Well,
this is
yeah,
this is
yeah,
interesting. It's interesting.
yeah. What about you, Dan? What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a super clever idea, man. And I actually give props to the smile marketing because even with the first one, they were the ones that did the smiling, at games. And even in this one, I saw that they did at the World Series. And you see it that guy that went and he broke character for a second because the ball almost hit him. But that's really clever. I'm curious how I'm assuming your camera has to be on in order for it to read your facial
Yep.
structure. I'm
Yeah.
assuming when you said you had to agree to things, I'm thinking, is it like the Disney thing where you're agreeing that if you ever
No,
die on
no.
any other
You don't get anything.
properties?
You just got to put your date of birth. I think it's to make
Oh, got
sure
it.
you're the
Okay.
right age. The
Hmm.
only requirements is date of birth and a smile
Mm,
for it to
mm,
play.
mm. Just what if somebody's born with like they have like baloney lips? They have very very thin lips, and the thing doesn't register a smile because it just looks like a frown.
Well,
Well,
they ain't watching then.
that's something to
There
consider.
you
Do you
go.
have to show teeth or not? Some people smile without teeth.
Ooh.
They just do the, you know, that's still a smile. That's still
This might take some science experimenting. See,
right.
like what works, what degree of smile, how creepy do you gotta be
Be
for it
awkward.
to work? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's good because what I mean, it's something it's not intrusive, doesn't harm anyone. So I would like so it's like why not? Why not throw it out there? It fits the theme of the movie. And like Dan said, this the marketing for both of these movies has been on point since the first one. There's people that
Mhm.
still don't know that was marketing when the first movie came out and they were showing up randomly at locations, sports and news and everything. Some people still think it's true. So like I love what they've been doing and you know for those maybe like George who haven't seen it, it might like engage them. Plus, I also think it's a good challenge. And I already saw people being up there like, I only lasted a minute and 20, like minutes. So it's like a challenge. Like, can you fully last the entire time? That's what she said.
Yeah, she did. And you still can't last a minute 20
uh,
seconds.
Yeah, just imagine that was the what turned her on, and so you had to like smile the entire time, like while you're doing it. And if you stop smiling, she's done.
That sounds like a horror movie.
uh,
Yes, keep smiling.
My face
Jennifer.
hurts. My face hurts.
uh,
That's funny.
Uh, uh, the second thing that I have here is so Robert Zemeckis, supposedly they check in on him. He kind of exaggerated, but he was like, yeah, like every 6 months, but he admitted it's just like an exaggeration. But Universal often checks in with him regarding a Back to the Future 4. This has been for years that they've been pushing, but he keeps rejecting them. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't see a reason to do it. But, however, in an interview, he said he is interested in doing a Back to the Future the musical.
mhm.
You know,
Mm,
kind of playing off of the Broadway show, which I believe is coming to an end soon, or did already come to an end.
hmm.
And that thing was popular. I think
Yeah.
it's grossed over 80 million in ticket sales
Jesus.
in its run. Yeah. So that he's interested in, but he's been pitching that to Universal and they're just not interested at all. So you got two sides, Universal be like, do this. And he's like, nah, I'm good. And then he's like, I want to do this. And they're like, nah, I'm good. So that's kind of where we stand. So Dan, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts, first of all, on Universal really wanting to do this Back to the Future 4, but then also his wanting to do the musical?
Yeah, so Back to the Future was one of those franchises that I always use as an example when they first started doing remakes. They're like, okay, stop, or trying to do like long distance sequels of these. But I got so desensitized throughout the decades of them doing this now that I think Back to the Future is almost primed to get kind of rebooted if they wanted to do it because the original still stands as it is. But there's so much like myth and lore you can do with this, with this franchise that just hasn't been tapped into yet. Now, having said that, a musical, I would watch it. I think it's awesome. I love Back to the Future. Obviously, it's one of my favorite franchises, but it's almost one of those things where if they allow him to do it, maybe he gets the itch of being, on stage or something, or somehow maybe if they film the musical, I don't know. Maybe he kind of gets the itch of wanting to do a part four after all, or doing a prequel, or doing something of that nature. Because we can always get Doc Brown, when he's young, inventing the time machine or something. I mean, I don't know.
So one of
I'm
those,
down.
one for me, one for you with the
Yeah,
studio.
yeah.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
Spielberg. The
Yeah.
Spielberg deal.
Yeah.
Give me the Spielberg deal. Yeah.
What about you, George? What's your thoughts on it?
I actually heard about this recently myself, and I was there's always like the musical version of the things that you love. Like
Hmm.
Beetlejuice has a musical, even Spider-Man had a musical, which thankfully it did not last long. But
Yeah.
there's a musical version to almost everything, and sometimes it hits. This is one of the ones I've seen that's been done really well. I'm gonna be honest though, I don't think I would ever be interested in watching the musical version of Back to the Future. It could be great. It's just not for me. If Zemeckis actually gets to do it though, if he's the one behind it, it might get me in a little bit more because it's like, well, this is the guy who gave us the first one. So that could be interesting. The only thing is just like, since it hasn't been touched yet, it hasn't been messed with, it's hard to see anyone else as these characters. It's like
Hmm.
Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox, they are as a part of this as anything else. Imagine
Yeah.
if we had got Eric Stoltz. This would have been a depressing movie. Thank God we
Yes.
got Michael J. Fox. you
Yes.
know? So it's like I don't know if that's something I ever really want to happen, but if he's the guy behind it, maybe. Like I think he could see where to inject some life and get us people like me in those seats to watch this. Plus, like you said, Jose, maybe that might or Dan, this might scratch his back and might be like, okay, I think I can do a part four now. Granted, I don't want that. Who would you get? Michael J. Fox to not be on that set. Like I love the guy, but he's done, you know. Same thing with Christopher Lloyd. I don't know if he still has the juice to be Doc anymore.
You'd have to almost like reboot it, like the soft. What do they call that? The soft
The
sequel
soft
reboot.
reboots. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sort of like that, where like it's his son or it's somebody, and they're like a loose storyline that's involved somehow, where they have to go rescue Marty or something. They'd have to come up with something. I remember Kevin gave us something on one of these episodes, right, where he kind of gave his pitch on how a part four would look, and it sounded like okay, I can see that. That was good.
If they were to do a part four, and like you said, they use like his kid, then Michael J. Fox could be in it, have his Parkinson's, and they can be like time traveling too much is what got
Hmm.
him to where he's at
Yeah.
is now. you know?
It
So it's
makes
like
it
time
makes
traveling
sense.
then becomes dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Keeps
so
you
it's like
glitching.
that could be
Whatever they're
cool.
putting in that flex capacitor, has some negative effects.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know. That air freshener ain't good for you, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's first of all, I think it's good on Universal that I mean they can easily just move on without him
Hmm.
and do it without Robert Samara. They own the rights,
Yeah.
but the fact that they're not doing it, they're respecting his work enough that they just keep asking him and bugging him, slowly trying to break him down until he gives up, instead of just being like kind of like with I think Warner Brothers did with the Matrix, where
Hmm.
he was just like, either you guys do it or we're gonna do it. So then they did it and gave us a shitty movie in
Yeah.
response.
Yes.
There, but it seems like they're not. Universal's not doing that with Zemeckis. They just like, come on, come on, come on, but
Yeah.
they're not touching it. So I think that's good and that's respectful from Universal.
Unless he
I'm
passes, right? If he passes, then probably got to jump on it right away. Maybe.
Maybe.
yeah, yeah. Well, they can just go back in time and then still try to convince him.
There you go.
And, I'm kind of with George on this one. I don't want to see a part four because I kind of don't want to see anyone else in those roles. Also, when it comes to musicals, it's not like I dislike musicals, but for me personally, I prefer musicals on stage. I'm not really too big of musicals on film. There are some rare ones here and there that I'm like, okay, I like that, but generally my preference is I want to see it on stage. I feel musicals are just very theatery for me, not like
Yeah.
film. This is my own like personal opinion. So, hopefully both sides just kind of keep rejecting each other. Is my thought process here.
Have they said anything about like who would compose the music? Is it gonna be Huey Lewis or is it? I mean, what are we doing here? Like this guy.
Maybe whoever was
Behind the musical
composing
on
for
stage,
the
right?
actual
Yeah.
like on stage musical probably bring
I've
some
never
of
heard the
those people in there.
music. Have you guys heard it at all?
I haven't either.
No.
Uh,
Mm. I have
I
no
mean,
interest to know what it's like. It's like Mean Girls. I have no idea what any of the music from Mean Girls and musicals like. I don't care to know.
so we'll see. To be continued on
Mhm.
that. All right, with the next one, this was revolves over Dan's one of his favorite directors. So recently, Tarantino
Mm,
was interviewed, and he was asked his thoughts on Dune 2. His response was that he has actually not watched either of Villeneuve's movies. And his quote was, "I saw Dune a couple of times, the Lynch version. I don't need to see the story again. I don't need to see spice worms. I don't need to see a movie that says spice so dramatically." And that was his
mm,
response to it. Which recently, I think I'm not sure if it's part of the B23 like Brazil or something. They're holding some kind of convention over
mm.
there, and they asked Villeneuve about those comments, and he responded basically saying like, "I don't care." Uh,
Whatever.
he's like, I don't care. He was like, he was saying that he understood that Tarantino, was kind of not about like reboots and remakes and all of that stuff, but he feels that doesn't correlate with what he did. He did an adaptation of the book, not a remake or a reboot of the movie. So he did, I get not original, but original,
Yeah.
based off of the book. Dan, I'm sure you have some thoughts because you're your favorite director. So we'll start with George on this one. George, what are your thoughts on Tarantino's comments and then also, Villeneuve's response?
I've had a lot of time to think about this after reading this thing myself, and I think we know how Dan loves Tarantino, and I was someone who didn't like Tarantino, and I've slowly am becoming a fan of his work. But the thing I'm truly a fan of is his mind of movies. The way this man consumes cinema and then spits it back out at us like no other. This guy is an encyclopedia of film knowledge, and I love how he enjoys and dissects it. So it's in turn, it was actually kind of disappointing when I read this because it's just like you of all people should understand how everyone sees things differently and how this guy's interpretation of this story could vastly differ from how the other guy did it. So it's like you figure he would give him a chance, especially since this guy actually took the time to spread out the story into two films and to do a third one coming up. This is a known story that's so large that 1 2 hour film or 3 hour film is not enough to truly capture this world. So I was very surprised and shocked that he wouldn't give it the time of day. That he kind of just like laughed it off to some extent, of as if it was a joke. And I was like, man, like you of all people seem better than that, you know. But yet he loves Marvel movies. It's like, how can you give them the pass? But yet this guy, you're not giving him like 2 seconds of your time. Come on.
Which some of those are also adaptations.
Oh yeah, which have been done over and over again. Something tells me he's seen all the Spider-Man films. We're on the third Spider-Man interpretation, fourth if you want to count the TV show. It's like if you can give that a shot, Dune deserves your time for the cinematic masterpiece that it is. Put that thing on mute and tell me you're not going to get anything out of that movie. I think Tarantino would get so much out of that film.
Especially considering that one of his actors was in there, Austin Butler. You know what I mean? From Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But I had thoughts about this as well. So, hearing this, it's a little ironic because Tarantino was famous for saying that, he steals a lot of stuff from other movies. So if you're stealing and you're borrowing things, whatever, semantics you want to use for that, whatever term, you're still taking from other things. So everything has been adapted, everything's been used. We've seen this so many times, and uh, Denny is such a phenomenal director, and we've seen what he's done. That you, as a great director, should still want to be able to see another great director's work and even interpretation of it. And the fact that it's based off of a book, I completely understand where the director's coming from by saying I didn't reboot that movie. I touched the book again. And even when you watch the parallels between both movies, it reads he found his own interpretations of the book and found his own versions of that stuff that we've seen. So it doesn't look like he remade Lynch's version of it. And Lynch's version is very Lynch-esque,
Yeah.
when you see his version of it. So it's I won't the thing with Quentin Tarantino is that he's gotten kind of loopy lately, where
Yeah.
there's been some movies that he says that he just freaking loves lately. I'm like, this movie, this is a movie you want to like champion and like put your crown on, and there's other ones like Dune and Dune 2 that you don't want to watch. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, to each their own. It's what you said, George. He's got such an encyclopedia mind of film that to us simpletons that are watching this, that are even though we consider ourselves film buffs, but not nearly on the same level as somebody like him, he's consumed so many different type of movies that who am I to tell him you need to take time to watch this movie that's already been made when the guy has seen so many countless original movies that I'm never going to see in my life. So maybe he's so focused on just watching a story being told once that he never wants to rewatch another one again. Maybe. So even when he mentions he likes some of I think he mentioned he likes some of the Spider-Man movies and stuff too, but I think he was talking about the Tobey Maguire one, right? I think he mentioned before.
Well,
So
last I saw in an interview, he said he's seen all of the MCU.
yeah, he's seen all the
So that
MC.
means he's probably seen the Sam Raimi's and
That's
the Tom
yes,
Holland
that's
ones.
true.
Maybe he didn't watch the Mark Webb versions with Garfield.
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
you watched the Sam Raimi and the one with Tom Holland,
hmm
then you can give Dune a chance, as far as I'm concerned.
I totally agree with you on that. So I guess it just depends on how he sees that. But isn't that even him being surprised? I mean, even him being into MCU so much, isn't that kind of shocking? Like,
A
I would
little,
never
a little.
expect him to he'd be into superhero movies like this. He's never shown anything in any of his movies that gave you a hint of any of the characters ever reading comic books much or being into comic
That's
books.
not true.
Which one?
Because I don't know if it was Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction. I
Oh,
can't remember.
Reservoir Dogs,
But
Reservoir
there's
Dogs.
like a
You're right.
conversation of like
Yep.
the Fantastic Four or something,
And yeah,
and
yeah,
you
and
could see
Incredible Hulk
comic
and
book
all that. Yeah.
posters in the background of
That's
another
true.
scene.
That's true.
So
That's
it
true.
was there. It
That's
was
true.
it
That's
was
true.
loosely there.
Good
Yeah,
point.
Yeah,
it could
not
be
bad for a
something
guy that's
like
like Tarantino movies, huh? No.
There you go.
yeah. I mean, it could be something where he enjoys to consume those type of movies, but he doesn't enjoy to do those type of movies. He just likes to
hmm
consume them here and
hmm
there. I mean, he's been full of hot takes lately. He also was marveling over Joker too, and I just saw that
Yeah.
recently, and
Yep.
I'm like, what? Uh, so so yeah. But this is like what the original Doom was what, mid 80s, 83, 84,
It was early 80s,
something
yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. So you can tell me in almost 40 years, you're not gonna. get anything new when someone who's proven to be a good director creates a new version, a new adaptation. You're not gonna get anything from it. This isn't Psycho. This isn't gonna be a carbon copy like shot for shot. So I don't know. It comes off kind of pompous to me, where it's just like I only see a story once and that's it. I don't need to see it again. I don't care who does an interpretation of it at all. So like I don't know. But I guess each person has their own way, their own that. I was just talking about how I prefer musicals on stage. It's a personal preference. So
Hmm.
maybe for
Yeah,
him
you
it's
too.
like one and done for the stories. Like that's it. So meaning if he would have watched the original Scarface, he would not have watched Pacino's version like
Yeah.
afterwards.
But I bet he
In the
has. I bet he
Oh
has
yeah,
seen the
he
original
has seen it.
Scarface.
Oh yeah, I think he did. I know he saw Pacino's
Yeah.
version of it.
Yeah.
He's
So
referenced
we
it.
know he's not watching Nosferatu coming in
Yeah.
December. Then by
Yes.
his rules, he's not touching
Sounds like.
Right?
Nosferatu.
Yeah. But I wanted to touch on what you said about the where you said, in 40 years about Dune that if you grabbed a good director, you wouldn't be able to retouch it and do something original with it, right? You can kind of say the same with Back to the Future. It's been about 40 years since we've seen it. And if you tell me that they didn't get Christopher Nolan to do Back to the Future, tell me you wouldn't be watching that, Jose. Yes, you
I mean,
would.
you put
Shut
Christopher
up,
Nolan
Dan.
in there,
Shut
I'm automatically watching it.
Yeah. And if they grabbed Denis Villeneuve, tell
up.
me, George, you wouldn't be sitting there watching it.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Well,
would.
to
Yes, you would.
to be fair, we didn't say we wouldn't watch it. We just said
I
we
know,
didn't want it.
exactly.
Yeah.
We
I
said we didn't
know.
want it.
I know.
Right. Me and
Man.
Jose together, we've watched a lot of crap we don't like and didn't want
Oh
to
yeah.
watch, but we still watch it.
We still watched it. Good point.
So we'll see. He's been on a hot take streak lately. Let's see what's the next thing that comes from Tarantino
Hmm.
after that. With his directing career being towards the end now, who knows? He might just become like a hot take master going forward. Moving on to the next thing. So it was recently announced that season 2 of Moon Knight, which there was a lot of people anticipating it, will not be happening. It has been uh canceled. So Dan, we'll start with you on this one.
Hmm.
Did you watch the
Hmm.
first season, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts of the story and not continuing and them canceling that?
Okay, so I love Oscar Isaac. I think he's a great director. I mean, actor, sorry, great actor. The first season I was kind of underwhelming to me. There was a lot of things that I felt like maybe it was a lot of setup, but I felt like there was a lot of things that doesn't quite make sense. I wasn't too familiar with the lore, of his character, so maybe me not knowing that, I was missing parts that maybe, you guys knew. But if the show can't cater around just people that know the lore. You should already, should be able to loop in people that don't. But having said that, I wasn't really caring for season 2 that much. So the fact that they canceled it, it doesn't make that much of a big difference to me. It is interesting though, and it gives me a little more hope that the MCU, they're telling us that they understand what they need to change. It seems like this is a step in the right direction by cutting off so many of these looser TV shows that just people didn't really care about that much and tightening up and releasing less quantity and hopefully better quality. So I would love to see his character pop up in something else. I don't want his character to not pop back up again. I just didn't feel we needed an entire series dedicated around him.
I'm kind of in a somewhat similar boat as you, just in the fact of like because it underperformed, I wasn't clamoring for a season two because
Hmm.
I didn't have the faith and hope that they could even succeed in telling a decent story with a season two because they didn't do it the first time around, which
Hmm.
is a disservice to the character and to the actors that were a part of it because there's definitely something there that could have worked. And then we've talked about it in past episodes where it's just like there was fight scenes that were clearly filmed but just weren't shown to us. It's like if they had just given us some of that, I guarantee there could have been a season two. People would have been a little bit more engaged to be a part of this. But it is no surprise. It is a good thing that they're starting to clean house. From what I understand, they have actually changed up their whole staff, like behind camera, and now they're really just trying to focus and give us better product like they did in the beginning. This happens in the comic books. When a comic book doesn't do well, it gets cut. and then we try a new crew or we wait a couple years and then they bring it back. We had a good chunk of years where we had no Fantastic Four books, where we had no X-Men books. I mean, this is obviously because of Fox issues and everything. But the comic books is like, all right, this isn't working. We'll just throw it away for a bit and come back later. I think if they can do that with him, give him a movie a couple years down the road and make it work, then it's
Mhm.
totally fine. It's reasonable.
I'm pretty much on the same page as you guys. Season one was a disappointment. Honestly, when it was supposedly gonna do it, I had no enthusiasm at all, like for it at all. I felt the whole show was a waste of Oscar Isaac's talent.
Yeah.
The only redeeming factor, the only like really strong episode, which I think was like episode five or something like that, it was strictly on the back of his performance. It was the one where he was like in the psych ward
Yeah.
episode. That was just a pure like acting clinic, and that's what made that episode shine. But everything else about the show was the point. Why are you gonna have an actor put in so much work to train to fight, to do his own like fight scenes, and then you don't even include that in there, to try to like Disneyfy this show? Like, no, it was set up to fail from the beginning due to the way they did everything. It got canceled. You know what? This frees up Oscar Isaac to, put his talents to good use in other projects. So I'm not too upset at it.
Yeah.
And like you guys said, hopefully this is. I think in my opinion, MCU is two for its last two. Wolverine and Deadpool. I enjoyed. That was a hit.
Mhm.
And then I actually enjoyed the Agatha show in there. So like I feel like their
Okay.
last two projects that they put out, I'm like, not there yet, but we're moving in the right direction. So who knows? Hopefully they keep down this route and just kind of keep on improving from there.
Right, and it kind of, I think like what you said about the episode five being like an acting clinic with him. Can we get more Oscar Isaac, please, in movies? Like, I
Right.
don't know what it is, but like he's kind of taking a break a little bit, and like I want to see more of him. Like I'm ready to see it. I'm almost down to see like a really good miniseries that something that he's in. Like just give me like a good 6 episode run of a character he gets to really explore and dive into. Like what he did in episode five. Give me like a 6 episode run of a juicy character like that where he can deal with like a lot of issues, whether it's mental issues or whatever psychological issues, whatever we got to deal with. I want to see some good Oscar Isaac acting, man. He's got an Oscar in him for sure.
Yeah.
I agree. It was looking like for a while he was kind of shot out of a cannon and was going up, and
Hmm.
then just kind of died off for a little bit. And I guess, Star Wars and that current iteration of MCU can do that to
Yeah.
you.
Hmm. Hmm. True.
Which, speaking of Star Wars, Disney is rumored to be making a new trilogy, a Star Wars episodes 10, 11, and 12, with Simon Kingberg being helmed as the writer and producer on it. There's no word yet of who's being thought of for directing. It probably hasn't been picked yet, but that's the person that's going to be producing and writing it as of right now. George, we'll start with you. As someone I think who's been the closest out of all of us to completely abandoning Star Wars
Mm.
as a whole, what are your thoughts on this new trilogy that they're thinking about putting out?
Oh man, so many thoughts. I have perfect shirt to wear right now.
Yeah.
Just I'm at a place where like I feel like they gotta stop. They just like all Star Wars, just stop. All right. No more movies, no more TV shows, nothing. Just put it away for a bit, let us miss it, and then get people who are actually good writers. Like people who truly is like A, care about the material, and then B, just care about writing good characters in general. So like not necessarily someone who has been writing Star Wars for a long time. A mild fan is enough. But someone who's been writing for a long time and has proven that they can write, like I don't want a first time writer. I don't want someone who just got out of college and wrote one article and now they're writing a whole story. It's like, no, I don't want that person. All right. I want someone who's proven, because that's what you need. But behind that is someone who has told you, showed you like I can do this. I've been doing it for a while. And then have your offshoots and all that crap. But I feel like they're not at a place where they've learned yet. When was what was the last successful Star Wars thing we've had? I can't think of anything really, but besides what maybe Mandalorian, the
Andor.
first two seasons.
Andor was
I'll
probably
give you Andor for the fact that it was well produced. It's just not Star Wars, in my opinion. It's not a Star Wars show. That's a good show that just happens to have Star Wars plaqued on it. But if we could have that kind of production level put behind it, that'd be awesome. That'd be great. I'm actually even open to like rebooting the whole thing, starting from scratch. Like we're like we talked about earlier, 40 plus years behind something, right? I could be okay with seeing a brand new Luke Skywalker at this
Don't
point.
use my own words against me, George.
But it's been long enough that I'm okay, to see someone else's interpretation. No, be even better than that. Make an adaptation of the Star Wars. That's very specific. Not Star Wars, but the Star Wars. There was an actual 12, I think, issue miniseries from Dark Horse where it's actually based off of one of the earlier scripts that George Lucas had written. And it's a totally different Star Wars movie. Do that. That then there's extra lore in there that people don't actually officially know. So now they get to have new things without feeling super influenced by the thing that they've known for the past like 3+ decades. That could be a great idea. But like, dude, does anyone really want episodes 10, 11, 12? Are we following Ray still? I heard her solo movie got canceled because the Peaky Blinders guy is focusing on Peaky Blinders right now. So it's
means
like no one
means
cares
like
about
I'm
her
making a
character.
mistake.
Yeah, it's like I don't know like who are we following? How far in the future are we? Like we have to be so far ahead that we aren't dealing with the Skywalkers anymore because their story is tainted. We don't want it. Give us something brand new altogether. I feel like I'm rambling now. You guys go.
Yeah. What I feel like it's weird. So people have talked about for years now over the oversaturation of Marvel projects and Star Wars projects, two big Disney properties. And people have talked about for years as we've been getting that this oversaturation blended with failing projects for both big properties. MCU, we just mentioned, seemed to be making an effort to kind of cut back, go back more towards a quality over quantity. We went from, 12 to 16 projects in a year between TV show and movies to, I don't know, what have we've had this year? I think under five, maybe like three or four or something from the MCU this year. Well, Star Wars is like, no, keep going straight ahead. Let's just keep loading up as much as possible. We just finished one shitty Star Wars show. We have another Star Wars show coming out next month.
Yeah.
On top of that, we're announcing an entire new trilogy. Like what right now? What over the last few years?
Shooter's mentality,
Yeah.
Jose. Shooter's mentality. Don't stop
Oh my.
shooting.
uh,
Oh, oh man, they're having a cold streak, but they're definitely shooting it up.
Hey, shoot or shoot. They're gonna keep
Yeah,
shooting.
what in the last few years has happened to have them to tell them that another trilogy is a good idea? Like, what has occurred to be like, you know what, this direction that we need to go. All right, like stop aiming for the home run. You've been striking out every time you go to the plate. Like, stop it. Ah, Dan.
Okay. So when I first heard about this, I heard mixed things already. When they announced it, they said it was going to continue part of the Skywalker lore. And then I heard another one that says insiders that are working on it saying they're trying to start a different one. So it's almost like there's already
a divide.
information that's contradicting each other. Yeah, there's already a divide. But the whole when they had the original trilogy, Star Wars wasn't necessarily grounded around the Skywalker lineage, I guess. Like it's sort of like that's what it became as they did the prequels and everything, and then they made the Star Wars trilogy or trilogies franchise, then became around the Skywalker line. But I don't feel like the original trilogy was necessarily intended to just be the Skywalker lineage, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It feels like it's kind of become that now. So now that you say that that's what it is, then you can't do 10, 11, and 12 outside of the Skywalker lineage now. Now it has to tie into the lineage. But now we don't have anything beyond Rey. And she's not even a true Skywalker. She
Yeah.
she just stole that name and just literally said it with some random, just
She
asked her who she was.
appropriated the
She
Skywalker
appropriate.
name.
There you go. She's culture vulture right now, and she's just taking it. You know what I mean? So she's not even the bloodline of the Skywalkers anymore. So like we don't know, right? Like I mean, who? I don't know.
Somehow, Luke has come
Yes.
back.
Yeah. I
If
think this was the
Palpatine can
worst.
do it,
Yes,
Luke can do it.
exactly.
Right.
They could do it too. I think this was possibly the worst possible thing they could have done right now with Star Wars is continue the part 10, 11, and 12 when we don't want it, right? That like they didn't do well in the prequels. The younger generation is going to attack us for this because they're saying that was a better trilogy, but whatever. Nobody's saying part 7, 8, 9 were the better ones. And yet we're going to continue pushing forward with that one. Like, why don't they give us the Old Republic that everybody's been clamoring to see? Give us the Old Republic trilogy. Like, that could be something that's very original. How about you give us a Star Wars version that's like a horror movie version of like you can change genres with the Star Wars universe and take us in many different creative original directions. And instead you're announcing 10, 11, and 12. You casted, you casted your guy to help figure out where the storyline of the story is going to go, but yet they don't even know what it is yet. So they're doing the same thing that they did before, where you're pre-announcing movies without even having a proper storyline in place already.
You know what the size of the sack has to be to be like, we're gonna do three. Like,
Yes.
we're not just gonna go back into the story. No, we're going to three right off the bat, whether you like it or not. All right.
Yes.
No consent from the fans at all. You're gonna get three
You're gonna eat
in there.
this. You're gonna eat this shit.
Not even gonna warm up. All right? Not even gonna warm up and start with one. We're going all three in there. So like, the sack, the people making this decision
No
have to have.
lube, all in.
Seriously. Full
Three
fist.
fingers deep in this. Take it all in. Yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And then okay, we look at Simon Kinberg. He's been a mixed bag as a writer. So yeah, he gave us Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but he also gave us 355. You, yeah, he gave us Days and Future Past, which is probably the best out of that main series. He gave us Dark Phoenix, Apocalypse, and The Last Stand for the X-Men one. Uh, yeah, he gave us Star Wars Rebels, which was good. Uh, but he gave us Triple X also. So, like, it's not like we're bringing in someone that's just been nailing it left and right in there. So I have no confidence in this at all. Hopefully, clearer minds like overcome and they start seeing people's like backlash to the idea of it, and they're like, you know what, let's just chill. Let's just chill, like George said. Let's put this on the back burner for a little bit. Let's bring it back. Let's give it 7 years. Give it at least 7 years. 7 years with no Star Wars. It's kind of like with kids, they have too many toys and they end up not playing with any of them and stuff. So they're like, you know what? Take like half the toys, put them in storage. Let them forget about it. Bring them back a year later as new toys. Then they start playing with them. So I'm like, do that. Do that with the Star Wars. Make us miss it. Because right now, it's like that relative that came to visit for a week and it's been a year and a half now. It's just like, I'm tired of seeing your face.
I know.
Yeah.
Did they already change their mailing address to your house already?
Yeah.
Toys is a great way of looking at it too, because Disney is about merch. That's what it's all about. And Lucas is at fault for this. His idea of merch is because of where we're at right now. Like what he did with Star Wars and slapping that Star Wars sticker on everything. Look where we're at. Now everything has to be that way. But that's how you know what's also good. So when I used to work in retail and we would have Star Wars merchandise, like the lightsabers and the action figures and all that stuff, you couldn't keep a Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, a Obi-Wan, or a Darth Maul lightsaber on the shelf. Those were going to fly every time. They were started off $100. The last time I saw one on the shelf, it was like $300 plus. Still flew off the shelf. Ray's lightsaber took almost a year to sell. It was on the shelf. We took it out of the box. No one cared about that freaking
Handing
lightsaber.
it in people's hands as they're walking in the
Yeah,
register, and they're
yeah.
just
They're like,
dumping
"Can
on
I
the
touch it?"
ground.
And they're like, "Okay, whatever." No one cared. The action figures, you have a Han Solo, a Chewbacca, like those things are going. They're easy sells. But anything from like the new shows, the new trilogy, they're just sitting there forever. Even like you mentioned the Old Republic, you have Darth Revan anything, it is selling. It's an easy sell. You got a backpack with Darth Revan's face on it, it's sold. But anything else that's new, they're just not buying. And that's your monitor right there. That's telling you what you should make stories from. So just like I said, put it on ice and just keep on selling us the stuff that we already want. Give us all that stuff. I guarantee if they made a cartoon series that did like the comic book did, like Marvel did in the 80s and again later on and Dark Horse did, just give us extended stories of like the lost years of Luke Skywalker or stuff like that,
Hmm.
people would eat it up. It's an easy sell. Just make a cartoon. You don't have to get Mark Hamill or anything. Just do that. You're good. Just pay animators. It's a simple thing. It's simple ideas, and like they're not seeing the low hanging fruit for some odd reason, which is really weird.
Baby step your way through it. After the hiatus, focus on giving us one great movie, one great classic movie. Draw us back in, be like, oh, Star Wars is fucking back.
Yeah.
Let's do
Hmm.
it. Give us that one. Then give us a second one. If that nails it too, we're gonna be clamoring for the third one. Don't, don't throw three right off the bat like here because it's telling me right now you're desperate. You're just trying to throw darts and hope something lands.
Right. And no
It
more
is
Death
like,
Stars. We're done with Death Stars. All
so
right.
please,
We're
like,
done.
it'd be so obvious to watch those things being built, and we had so many being built and nobody noticed. Like, that's ridiculous. But like, I wish it would almost go kind of Logan with it. You know how when X-Men was like really like
Yeah.
messing up, they took a step back and they just gave us a very different tonal change, and they made it more grounded. It was more character driven. Phenomenal. Like the best X-Men movie, even though it's not really an X-Men movie, it was still like the best one out of all of them because it was a real grounded movie. Just give us a real Star Wars movie, please. Like give us something with just really good writing and really good acting, really good storytelling, really good filmmaking. Like just take it back to the roots. You know what I mean? Like sort of like what Alien Romulus did in the first half of the movie. Take it back to the roots. Back to the
Yeah.
roots.
And follow suit with like Peter Jackson. Look what Peter Jackson did.
Hmm.
He made a trilogy. The studio signed off, and he took the years he needed to film the whole trilogy.
Hmm.
And then he was just editing the whole time. So
Hmm.
so unlike them, where like they're second guessing themselves and switching people around in between sequels, it's like no, have your one guy, have him write and direct the whole thing,
Hmm.
and then you're good. You don't have to worry about 2 years from down the line. What are we doing again? It's already done.
Yeah.
We just gotta set up dates. The Wachowskis, they did it with two
Yes.
and three of the Matrix. Film it back to back. Boom. You're just setting dates after
You won't get studio notes. You know what I mean? You'll get a lot less
that.
studio notes that way because they don't know what they're looking at yet. They don't know if it's a success or not. They're just gonna ride with your creativity. But it's Star Wars. It's like they cherish this thing so much. And I just wish that even MCU sometimes has sat back on some of their products and they've allowed the filmmakers to do their thing. And maybe it was sometimes when they would do it like with Guardians, like we mentioned, where they didn't quite wrap their head around the commercial appeal for it. They just thought it was going to be a failure. So they let James Gunn do his thing. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. But like I really wish they would just sit back sometime. That's why I think in order to do Star Wars properly, you can't do it on the trilogy. You can't do it off of the episode franchise. You have to do it with a spin-off. You have to do it as a one-off. You have to do it somewhere else in the galaxy is the only way I think you're going to be able to really save Star Wars and find the thing that we are telling the studio what we want.
Yeah. Stay away from the Skywalkers.
Stay
Have
away.
it placed somewhere
Ah,
else.
Walker.
New galaxy, new timeline, and definitely no Death Star,
Hmm.
like you guys said. Just because this, I just imagine the people living in that time in there, and they see another Death Star out there. How worried would you really be? You'd be like, they always get taken out, and
Yeah,
we're good.
exactly.
Yeah, not
All
even
right.
worried. It's like living in
Yeah.
LA and you get that like
That
4.2.
tremor.
Like,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
It's like, oh, someone moving furniture, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you don't get worried after a while. So that's what the Death Star has become. It's become a 4.2 earthquake.
It has. I'm actually more excited for Scary Movie 6 and the Wayans brothers coming back than I am for episode 10, 11, and 12. Let's
They let that
go.
simmer. They let
Seriously.
that simmer.
Yeah.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
They hit at the perfect moment. And I even saw Regina Hall's like, I'll come back to that franchise. I'm like, yes, please. Thank
they, they
you.
they should bring just to make it funnier. They should bring Barrera and in this one the ones that got kicked
Oh,
out
from the scary
of the
movie.
last
I
Scream.
mean, yeah,
They should
yeah,
bring them into Scary Movie.
yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
So, but that is the current events that we have for now.
So if you like what we had, please follow, subscribe, comment, share on YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Twitter, Not a Strong Start, where you can catch a lot more of our content. We talk a lot more about movies, and we have other current events that we talk about. I'm your host, Fresh Moment. You can follow me at King_Sangre.
I am not your host. Read all about it. You can find me at This Is Mi Nombre on Instagram.
And I am your other guy, Mario Lopez. You can follow me at Nagalopolis.
And we
And
hope you're
extra.
listening. There you go. We hope you're listening to the audio version because this is really Mario Lopez. Don't watch the video version of this.